So we have Care Center here with our leading adolescent guidance specialist, Brittany Nadur. And we're here to talk a bit about the topic, maintaining and enhancing holistic health during COVID-19 pandemic for adolescents. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of these topics in terms of spending time at home. How can we reduce stress? When we know that there are a lot of students, a lot of parents that are home right now, and some ways that they can cope with the stress. We're going to talk about some unhealthy coping mechanisms that persons would have adopted throughout this time, and how can they overcome it. Also, some tips on being goal-oriented. And we're aware that there are a lot of schools that have started online classes. So, transition into that online learning. How can we now educate or help or assist students, into this transition? Because now they're going to be exposed to learning styles. Their learning styles that they aren't aware of, learning disabilities that they are now going to be exposed to, that they weren't aware of before, that they may or may not have. We're also going to look at some social media and digital footprints, how it may affect them based on what they post on social media. And now that we have this drift towards the technology, it gives rise to some issues in terms of cyberbullying. So how can we help adolescent guidance specialists, adolescents deal with these challenges now? And then how to limit screen time and so forth. So Brittany Nadur, we have you here. So tell us a little bit about what you do about adolescent guidance specialists and how we're going to, whichever topic you want to start first, you can go right in.
Okay, well, Alicia, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. It is an honor. I would start off by saying that as much as what I will speak about will be centered around teenagers, we are all social animals and we're all going through this pandemic, so we can all benefit from the points made. So if you're not a teenager, it doesn't disqualify you from listening to the podcast and learning and becoming a better version of yourself. So as mentioned before, I really want to give you all some tips and some advice as to how to maintain and enhance not just mental health, but health on the whole during this very unique pandemic that we're living through. Our teenagers are dealing with a lot of factors right now that are not in their common routines. They have they're spending a lot more time home. And with spending more time home comes with spending a lot more time with your family. And that brings...
know how that can be.
Exactly. Because some people, they have these small families. So it might just be a mom, a dad, or a mother and a teenager, which comes with its pluses and minuses, of course, but there's also big families and families with a lot of siblings or extended families. So we have more people around us all the time in the same space. So many personalities, so that could become very trying.
Yes.
We also have a lot more responsibility at home, so everybody has to pull their weight. So let's say in a household where they used to have a housekeeper or a cook, now we don't really have those facilities anymore, and everybody has to take up a little part of the weight carried during this time. And
the more responsibility.
Exactly. And again, a lot more is going to be looked towards teenagers because they are blooming adults. So there is their responsibility to take up as much responsibility as they can in the home as well. Also recognizing that the most responsibility falls on the shoulders of our parents and guardians. So teenagers have to deal with stressed out parents and guardians. You mentioned before in your podcast before, I believe it was your the first one with the therapist.
Clinical psychologist.
Yes, the clinical psychologist. And she said, to limit screen time. But not many teenagers could go up to their parents and be like, Mom, Dad, I heard on a podcast today that you should limit your screen time. So I don't think you should watch news all the time. Kind of bargaining on a not so nice response, depending on the parents or the parent relationship that you have. So how do you maneuver around parents and stressed out parents? Because, yes, there's the news, but there's also parents are dealing with financial problems, with work, with school, with everything that comes with being a parent of a family at this time. So aside from the family and the home, teenagers, obviously their structure has gone out the door. So if they didn't have a bedtime before, they definitely do have one now. They don't have any wake-up call, and there's no break in settings, meaning there's the home time, and then there's school time, and then there's extracurriculars. There is no structure.
Right, they're all in one now.
Exactly, the same setting, whole time. There's less socialization as well, so less socialization with their friends, and also a lot of teenagers reach towards their teachers as pillars of strength. So I'm sure you can speak on that, knowing that your students reach on you, or their particular students that might come to talk to you about what's going on at home, and now they don't have that outlet.
Yeah.
There's also, as you mentioned, the use of online classes. A lot of schools have reopened in accordance with the school term, and with that brings the online class. And if they're not doing online classes, a lot of assignments have now gone to strictly online, or they might be making up the marks through online assignments. So all of these factors that come into play with what teenagers deal with, we very quickly look at youths and be like, well, what stress they have? They don't have any bills or anything. But I'm sure we could all think back to when we were teenagers, and we did go through stress, and we did hope that someone would have taken us seriously. So, again, this is reaching out to teenagers, but also parents, to really understand what their teens are going through and how you can help them go through what they're dealing with.
Yeah, because concerning the online classes, I know that a lot of schools have been sending work, but they've been using a lot of different platforms. And I know we have some platforms like Zoom, we have Google Classroom, all these things that the ministry have also sent out information for teachers of the nation to really make use or utilize these platforms. And it really has been challenging for these students, because with my hearing the students, I'm an educator, and just hearing the feedback, they've been like, they now downloaded Zoom, they're now trying to figure out how to use this. The parents themselves aren't aware of these platforms or knowledgeable on it, so they're now trying to learn as well. So it's a big adjustment, for sure. It's a big adjustment, and because they are used to having someone physically there present with them to really push them in their work, they don't have that anymore. So it's all on them now. So it is a transition.
Yes, definitely. And not to mention, I really feel it for the parents that might only have one laptop or one computer. So think about, if their children now have to use the laptop that they need for work, it's a lot going on. So again, all of this adds to a lot more stress at home. So with that, I will transition into giving some tips of reducing and coping with stress at home, because we are stuck at home, the same place, no escape. And either we just lay down on the floor and just think that the whole world is coming to an end, or you figure out a way to make it a little better. So I will start off with ways that teens can reduce stress at home. So teens are always getting in trouble for not cleaning their rooms and not cleaning up after themselves. So to me, I'll start off with the no-brainer in taking the initiative and cleaning your room and cleaning up after yourself. Make it a point that when you wake up in the morning, you clean your bed, you clean your room, you keep your room tidy, so that you don't have to deal with your parents coming in and arguing with you about that. If you use the kitchen to prepare a meal, clean up after the kitchen. If you pass by, you see something on the floor, the place is feeling dusty, the sink is full of waste, take the initiative and clean up, and it will eliminate more stress that you have to deal with, not being argued with, and more and less things on your parents' shoulders to do as well. For parents that are working online and on their laptops or computers, making it a point that when they have these times to entertain your siblings in another room, these are ways that you can help them out as well and reduce the stress of your parents, which will trickle down into the home environment as well. Taking it upon yourself to make a meal for the family, You don't have to be a chef. You don't have to do eggs Benedict and all these other fancy meals. Nothing wrong with a scrambled egg or a sandwich, or even offering to make a salad at the side of a meal that your parents cooking. All of these things help out. Also helping them when they're cooking, going and offering to cut up something, to wash wares while they're cooking. And this is a excellent opportunity. And this was a point made in one of your previous podcasts with the occupational therapist. This is a time where you can learn the skill of cooking, because it is an essential life skill. And not many teens are going to end up choosing food and nutrition if it is even an optional choice in Form 3 to choose. So this is a time where you can learn that essential skill. If there's a particular meal that you like, and you can't even fathom the thought of when you move out how you're going to not have it, sit down and let your parents teach you. It's a bonding experience, and you learn it as well. Also, you spend all your time with your parents. So your parents, how they look when they're stressed out, how they speak when they're stressed out. So being able to read your parents' body language and knowing when to just stay away and give them their space instead of coming to ask them something unnecessary.
So you say boundaries. You say just be aware, have boundaries.
Yes. And I could speak on my path. My mother's very simple. You bring her a cup of tea and she's just on cloud 9. So, a simple thing as you see your parents stressed out and they just come off the phone talking to their boss or talking to an employee and they're stressed out. Do they like a cup of tea? Would you like a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? Maybe sometimes you don't even have to ask, and just bringing that act of service towards them, and snack, or even a simple compliment. Like, people really discredit the power of words, and coming to your parents and being like, Mom, Dad, I know you're going through a lot, but I just want to tell you, and I see that you're doing the best that you can. Or, even though your boss telling you different, Mom, I think that you're a good employee. All these different compliments that help pour into their cup, So I would say that these are just a few points that you can use to reduce your stress at home as a teenager, but also there's only so much houses that I could give points that are applicable. So teens, you live in your own home, the dynamics of your own home, so you can figure out in your own way how you can help reduce the stress and adapt to the points that I made to your home environment.
Right.
So I would move on to coping with stress now, because we can do as much as we can, we can wash as much wares as we want, but that does not eliminate stress when it comes about. So,
wait, before you go, you mentioned that there are some unhealthy coping mechanisms that students may end up doing. So what are some of these unhealthy that some of our listeners may be able to identify, and they'll be like, okay, we need to stop this because this is unhealthy, because some of them aren't even aware that it is unhealthy.
For sure. And then they wonder why they're stressed out or why things aren't working out, and the power is in their own hands and their choices. So I will say having the freedom of not having a structure allows you to just oversleep until 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the middle of the day. And that is an unhealthy way of coping. I am an avid go and sleep when you're feeling stressed out, because you get the escape. But if every time you get stressed out you go and sleep, that's an unhealthy mechanism. Or if you choose sleep instead of doing tasks on your to-do list or doing responsibilities, that's an unhealthy mechanism, because you're just avoiding, you're not dealing with anything, and the stress that you try to escape from is going to be there when you sleep, and just more time has passed by. So along with oversleeping, there is the infamous overeating.
Oh yes, and we've been seeing on social media people are posting doubles, donuts, all these things they're making, so
yes. So overeating is definitely an unhealthy coping mechanism, because it trickles into when you look in the mirror and you start to look not so much like yourself anymore. It doesn't feel nice, especially if you're not taking any time to work out. And coupled with overeating, just sitting down and watching TV or YouTube for hours and hours and hours and hours.
And Netflix, the Netflix.
Everybody prefers to Netflix and chill than be productive. Right? Then we have, unfortunately, even though we're speaking about teens, there are teens that have access to alcohol and they have access to the drugs and the smoking and the cigarettes and all these things. And some children are also home alone now because if their parents are essential workers, they know that between this hour and this hour, my home is a hub for anything that we want to do. So it's very easy. And again, this is why I say, even though I'm speaking about teens, it's not only towards teens, because a lot of adults are reaching towards having a beer or having 10 beers or having a drink because they're stressed out. So the smoking, the drinking, and then, taking out your stress on other people as well. I think that will be the last unhealthy coping mechanism. I mean, I could go on for days and days, but that'll be the last one I will talk about, of using people as your outlets. And it's, unfortunately, for teens, we tend to use our younger siblings. And we don't do to others as you wouldn't want them to do to yourself. So,
Yeah. So you could probably give us some tips now, as you were saying, some coping mechanisms for these.
Yes. So some healthy ways that you can deal with stress, because it is a very stressful time. You can, I will start off with physical activity for sure. So I am somebody that I need to go to gym at least a few days a week or outdoors to walk up some hill or mountain. And I don't have that option now. But I'm also not going to sit down and be like, okay, well, the gym is closed, so I can't be physically active anymore. There are a lot of ways, and there are a lot of trainers that are giving personalized training online or video or live. But again, if you are a teenager and you don't have the finances to fund something like that, YouTube has endless workouts and endless yoga videos and anything that you can think that you want to try doing, this is your time to try. So making it a point, at least an hour a day, a few days a week, to go out. Either you're doing yoga, you're taking time to meditate. And again, meditation doesn't have to be some hippie thing. That silencing of your mind is very beneficial. Yes, and it's very hard. I always make the joke and say it's very hard to focus on your stress in your life when you're working out and your quads are burning. That's the only thing you can focus on. So that's one way to take your focus away from everything stressing you out and just focus on what you're doing at the moment. So stretching, taking a nap, nothing's wrong with taking an hour nap. Anything beyond an hour is counterproductive. Taking a bath, a cold bath, a hot bath, adjusting the temperature in your home as well, in front of a fan or whatever, because even the heat tends to get it in hot environments. We get more aggressive and upset and more impatient. So going outside, calling a friend, calling a grandparent that you can't visit right now, journaling. Miss Anne Frank made a whole book that got published through journaling while she was quote unquote quarantined for 2 years in an attic during the Holocaust. So you don't know if your journals can be published someday during your COVID pandemic time.
Definitely.
And then, well, specific to girls and boys, a lot of girls, that self-love of washing your hair or doing your nails or doing a face mask, and with fellas, go and take a mark, go and shave, all these different ways of coping with stress.
Self-care.
Yeah, definitely. So those are some little tips of coping. And again, the internet is a vast place. So if anything listed that I mentioned just now is not applicable or interesting to you, go and search up and see what you can do that sounds interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I like how the ways of coping, it's very practical. And even me, I'm learning. I'm going to adapt some of these things because, it's really applicable. Yes, we're speaking particularly for teenagers, but, everyone, like you said, can benefit from these tips. So you mentioned that you're going to talk a bit about tips on being goal-oriented, self-accountability, self-compassion. So you want to touch a little bit on those areas?
Yes. So during this time, it's happening inevitably. We can't do anything about it. We just have to go with whatever is advised right now to get things back to, I will say, a new normal. So I encourage people to take some time and sit down and list out at least 3 goals that you want to accomplish during this quarantine time.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
these goals can go over. So I knew my goals, but in preparation for this little chat, I decided to do like a poll thing on Instagram and see what some people goals are. So I got goals such as learn to cook meals, so cook 2 meals and 2 desserts a week, join an online class, learn a new language, read a particular amount of books, exercise. And I will say with exercising, even setting a goal, okay, at the end of this quarantine time, I want to be able to do 10 push-ups. That obviously it's not going to happen right one time, but this is where sitting down and setting the goals, but then creating steps to accomplish them. To me, you can come out of this time better or worse. And if you come out of it worse, you didn't learn anything, and you didn't learn any lessons, you didn't achieve anything, you just become a victim to just having to stay home in your home. So creating goals and holding yourself accountable to accomplishing these goals is very exciting, to create all these wonderful goals and be all motivated in the moment. And then the next day when we have to wake up and work on them, that's a whole other story. So creating these steps, but also creating new habits. So it takes, some people say it takes 27 days, and then there are people that say it takes 3 months to start a new habit. And so attempt to start new habits, small things of, if every day I'm going to wake up and 10 minutes to meditate. We don't have to sit down for an hour to meditate. Or every day I'm going to read X amount of pages. Or every day I'm going to go out and work out. So every day I'm going to paint or color, or all these different things that also intertwine with coping with stress as well. So with setting goals, there is that pressure to be productive during this time. And I understand that it is not a time of who could be more productive. I saw a post like that on social media. But it is also not a time to just sit down and do nothing. So you have to find that balance between being productive and doing work, and resting and sleeping, or doing something that you enjoy with least effort. And with finding that balance, there's also self-accountability and self-compassion, because you can't set goals and then if you wake up feeling very different, or something happens unexpected, or something is thrown into the mix, then you go to sleep the day knowing that you didn't accomplish your goals, and you just feel horrible about yourself. You have to find that balance between not giving yourself excuses or setting goals and never accomplishing them, but working on it when you're at your best, but also understanding that you are a human, you are not a robot. You don't just press the on button and the off button. You are a human with emotions, and there's your internal environment as well as your uncontrollable external environment. So having that self-compassion of, if you wake up one day and you really feel that today is just a day, I just need to just chill out, have a rest day completely, no work, no productivity, just take that day. Once it doesn't stretch into 3 to 5 days, then we're good.
Yeah. And, I want to talk a bit about this in terms of, even for me personally, I set a lot of goals, and because I'm always up and about before this COVID, and then being confined in one space, it was an adjustment for me, but I found myself overworking myself. And then it's interesting that you mentioned this in terms of we are out of control of some things, right? That may happen one day, you plan to do something and then something happens. So, last week I had a death, a dear friend to me passed away, and I just couldn't do anything for those 2 days. And then I was not having self-compassion, as you say, because I was thinking in my mind, I need to be productive, what's taking place here. So then I realized that I needed to just take some time and just do nothing, watch a movie, just relax. So, and then I felt better. And after I did that, those 2 days of resting, the weekend I was very productive, so it really, what you're saying, it works, it really, I believe in what you're saying, because it happened to me. when I actually did not do. And so yes, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, because again, as much as it's a time to make use of it, make use of the time that you have, and make the best use of the time that you have, it's also a time where a lot of devastation is happening around the world. And everywhere
Yeah.
that you turn, there's numbers of deaths going up, or
Yeah.
positive cases going up, or you go outside. I could speak for myself. Anytime I step foot out of my house, I have such nervous feelings. It's just so
Right.
uneasy to go outside and come back inside, because there is that fear of contracting this virus and all these things. So it is very trying on your mental health. But if
Yeah.
you sit and just have a pity party for yourself that goes past 3-4 days, that's where it starts to become counterproductive and just takes away from you, rather than take any time, feel your feelings. If you want to write a journal, if you want to listen to music, and when I say listen to music, you don't listen to music to make you cry. I mean, if you want to cry, you can cry. You can listen to one song to cry. But at some point, you have to try to get yourself back out the hole. You can't just sit down and get comfortable in the hole. So,
Yes.
you have to be patient with yourself, and you have to feel everything that is coming to you. You can't just ignore it. You can't just continuously distract yourself and go and do this, or go and watch this video, or go and take your mind off of it, because it will always just keep creeping back. So it is a time to be patient with yourself and get to know yourself, because we very rarely in our routine get that self time. We're always in school and work and
Yeah. So just and students that we could transition into the online now.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the students are now transitioning into there are a lot of classes that really they're trying to get this third term, even though the ministry advised and said that school is gonna tentatively start back in September.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parents don't want their students to not be doing anything during this time. So if it's not in the school, if they have lessons or other places that have online classes. So what are some experiences, like some challenges that students may be facing on this online platform, like learning styles, learning disabilities that they may become aware of, or some tips on how can they get or transition into this online platforms?
Yeah, so there's only so much tips that I can say to deal with it, because most students don't have a choice, unfortunately. If the school says that they're doing online classes, you can jump high or low, they have to attend. If they don't attend, then they're going to be left behind. So again, this is why you really need to pay attention to our young people, because a lot is being demanded of them during this time. But also, you can't just not interact with their minds for months and months, and then open back up September. So as beneficial as online classes are, it is very trying. So I will offer some tips as to how to go about these online classes or online assignments the best way that they can. So I will start off by saying, if you have online classes starting at 9:30 in the morning, I do not recommend that you wake up 9:15 and put on your light and pull your laptop on top of the bed with you and just start classes. That's not going to make any sense. So I recommend that you do set an alarm way before. I would say anywhere between an hour to 2 hours, and use this time to tend to whatever chores, so that when class is going on, you're not going to have a parent coming into your room and giving you a cut eye because you didn't take out the garbage or do what you were supposed to do before your classes started. And again, that will just add hostility in the home that we just don't need any more of right now. So
and then it will throw them off as well. They'll lose focus on what they were actually doing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they can't really learn if they know that their parents, or some of them might have to leave the class, go and do what they have to do, and then come back, and then obviously they can't tell the whole class to stop and wait for them. So wake up before, do your chores, take a bath so that you refresh yourself, and have a meal, have breakfast before. And then when you're about to start class, get everything that you need so you don't have to keep running away from the computer. So get water, a drink. If you're someone that you need something to snack on, get some snacks, get your books, your pens, make sure everything is around you. And I do recommend using the same place all the time. So whether it is on your desk or on a dining table, use the same space so that your brain starts to associate, when I sit down at this desk, this is time for me to work and focus, rather than trying to confuse your brain and do your work on your bed, because an hour into your online class, you might be sleeping. So,
right. Yes. Yes, and our clinical psychologist spoke about that as well, in terms of the brain would actually get confused, and when it's time to sleep, then they are awake and want to do work. So it could cause confusion in the mind as well, subconsciously.
Yes, exactly. So, putting that space aside and, make it as appealing as possible. If you want to put a picture of a friend or something, but, making it comfortable. I would also recommend making use of the breaks, because I do know that they wouldn't just have online class for hours and hours. They would have either 50-minute breaks or hour-long breaks. And I don't recommend you use these breaks to pick up your phone and go on another screen, because you just sat down watching a screen for hours. So go out, stretch your legs, make a meal, go and take some fresh air, obviously not outside your compound, because you can't. All right.
Right.
Out your door. And try to stay away from a screen during this time. I know that you're going to want to message a friend and all that, but really give your brain and your eyes a break from that, and kind of wake up your body, socialize with your siblings or your parents during that time. And also with those that have assignments that they have to do online, or they have particular days for online classes, or maybe they have classes for school and then they have classes for lessons. I recommend that you create a calendar so that you can stay on schedule with the deadlines and the assignments, and you could always look back on it to make sure that you're not missing out or missing a class or getting behind on your assignments. And for those with online assignments, this is a time for you to get familiar with the World Wide Web.
Yes.
YouTube. YouTube teaches you a lot. There are a lot of teachers and educators that create YouTube videos to help you explain concepts or theories, topics. There are PowerPoint slides, there are practice tests, flashcards. There are people that do essays on maybe an assignment that you have to do. Now that doesn't mean copy and paste, but you get you get multiple perspectives. So if it is that you have a research assignment on the COVID pandemic, don't just pull up the first link and make your notes on that link. Pull up, I would say, at least 5 to 6 links and read through them, and you will see strengths and weaknesses, and you will see similarities in them. And all of this is going to make your assignments even better, and obviously better grades and all that. And then just lastly, that you mentioned before, with the difficulties of the online classes with particular students that have learning disabilities. So you mentioned in your podcast with the occupational therapist about the different types of learners, and the learners that aren't very strong in auditory learning. They're going to have difficulty on this. So I would say I was placed in a group for an assignment under my master's with someone that I only found out after is deaf in the left ear and 50% deaf in the right ear. So she's not hearing a thing on Zoom. So I'm not saying that you might have a deaf friend, but you might have a friend that either doesn't have internet access, or missed something, or couldn't make it to a class, or found it difficult to upkeep with the pace that they were going on online. Help out a friend, help out your friend, send her notes, send him notes, give him a call after, and you'll have a chat about what you learned. And again, this is an opportunity for you to socialize. So those are just a few tips. Now, you being a teacher, Lisa, I am sure that you can offer some more tips of how students can best adapt to this online platform.
Yeah, like I've been teaching classes every day, online classes, and just really hearing the struggles that students are having. In terms of, there are a lot of different online platforms that, say, I'm a teacher that is using Zoom, another teacher may be using Google Classroom, or a lot of different platforms, Skype, whatever, and they're being confused. They have some of them are complaining, Miss, we have to download these apps, and then it's slowing on my phone. So it's like, okay, can you just choose one? So it's a bit demanding. But what I would say is that some tips that they can use can help alleviate these things is just take it one day at a time. Really be able to sit down, be focused. You know that you have that class within that time. You give it your all. And a lot of them say that they're bored and they actually miss school, and they love the interaction with their teacher and with their. Some of them, when I came online, they were like, Miss, this is like the hype of my day. So it's like they because as you said earlier, they look for school as an escape as well. So now they don't have that. So they look forward, and so even though we have some negatives, we have some positive feedback from students and with this online platform. And in terms of with the time, students, it's okay to go on class. So if you have your pajamas, right, just be comfortable. If it is that, but not too comfortable where you don't want to be doing work and not focused, because I myself, I've been teaching in shorts, so sometimes I'm like, okay, and then, but I shower, I take a shower, and so it can have some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. But sure, once you're self-aware, and you know that you want to be productive. So these are some tips that, for the students.
Yeah, I would also add in a quick tip for any educators listening that kind of popped in my mind when you said what you said just now. Maybe offering the first 10 to 15 minutes of online class to just small talk. Before we jump straight into learning, anybody want to talk about how their day going, anybody want to share anything, because again, school is that social area where we get to chat and we get to talk, because a lot of teachers, they're second parents as well, and they miss their students just as much as the students miss their teachers, and the friends miss each other. So allowing that time for them to kind of it's very hard to just jump from focusing on home to focusing on school, especially when, as you say, you're in something comfortable and you're in the home setting. So kind of getting them wind into the class and focusing, and then engaging them and offering that, okay, I'm not only here to teach because I'm a teacher, but how are you all doing? How are you all coping? Any of you all? And I know that they will jump at opportunities like that to small talk.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes, definitely. I've actually done that. And our principal at the school that I teach, she even said, hey, you all teachers, just this week, don't teach any classes.
Perfect.
Just talk. Go on, ask them how they're doing, and for me, that was really commendable, So I would say any educators that are listening on this podcast, don't stress out the students too much, So so now moving on, we have social media, digital footprints. So we know that, yes, they have on one side, they're on social media, they're online for the classes, but now they're exposed to the social media aspect. So we want to, talk a little bit about social media and what are these teenagers posting, whether or not they have TikTok, they have all these different things. How are they doing, posting positive stuff? Are they not? So what are some of the implications of these things? Talk a little bit about
I would say, we first have to give our thanks for being in the era that we are right now, because if everyone was stuck home without internet and social media, I mean, some might say, yeah, we need that, but most will say, I'll go crazy. But even not just socialization, obviously, the ability to work from home and all these things. So we are social animals. We do thrive off of interactions with people. So being at home, the only way that we can interact with our friends and these social circles are on these online platforms. And when we think online platforms, the first thing we think about is social media platforms. But there are other ways to interact with each other outside of just the messaging. I saw people doing Zoom parties. It's basically a few of you all sign on Zoom at the same time, and everybody chats and get, whether we're all going to bring a snack and talk, Zoom parties. There are people that use games online as well. So
yes. That's something called house party.
yes,
I've heard. Yeah.
yeah. So, using these platforms to socialize, because it is going to make you feel better, and you don't know that if you will be the only smile that somebody has that day. So using these online platforms to check up on your friends, especially those that may not have the best home background or the best, maybe a lot of dysfunction at home, check up on them, even if every time you ask them how they going, all they do is message and say good or not good, maybe some point they will open up. Or, so check up on your friends. But I would say, as you said, everybody is jumping on any possible social media platform, and TikTok being the number one favorite. Now, with the lack of social interaction, our brain still needs stimulation, and we get that every time we get a like or we get a comment. Now, the problem with that is I view social media as a place that's basically a competition for the least morals. Those that have the least morals win the competition, meaning they have the most followers and the most likes. And it creates an internal conflict, because our teenagers obviously want to be popular, obviously want followers, and obviously want likes. But what are you willing to do for the likes and the comments? That's the question. So I just want to really drive it home that if you aren't familiar with the word digital footprint, it's kind of self-explanatory. If you put your foot in sand and you walk off, you are going to see your footprint remaining there unless somebody comes and erases it. Now, a digital footprint, nobody could erase it. So you can post something now and 2 minutes after regret it and go and delete it, but I can guarantee you somebody screenshotted it already. So really being aware of what you're posting and remaining respectful, and knowing that these things follow you anywhere that you go. And if you Google your name in Google, I could guarantee you will see at least 5 of your pictures on social media on there. So I think the last thing that teenagers need right now is for their parents to catch them posting something that they should not post, and then their phone being taken away from them, because they will just go lunatic. So being cognizant of what you post, and the impact of what it is you post. Are you lifting people's moods, or are you posting something that gives a positive portrayal of yourself or not? And with that,
or are they tearing down? Sorry,
exactly.
Are they tearing down one another? Which brings me into the cyberbullying. So you mentioned that there are a lot of persons that are experiencing some bullying, or may potentially be because at school now everything is shifted now to the home and then online. So could you talk a bit about the cyberbullying?
Yes. So cyberbullying, it is something that obviously came about within the 21st century era, because we did not have internet before. And it is just rising more and more and more every day. And cyberbullying is something, it is bullying, but it is everything besides physical bullying. And it's where someone seeks to break you down, or to ruin your reputation, or to make you feel unsafe or fearful based on their interactions with you on social media platforms. And cyberbullying is done obviously by bullies. Now, a lot of teens deal with bullies at school, but now these bullies at schools can't get to you anymore, and they're not too happy about that. So they take it upon themselves to find you on social media and make up for lost time.
Right.
But what I want people to understand is bullying is just a symptom of a very unhappy person. And a lot of bullies are bullied in their own lives. And
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of bullies have a lot of home dysfunction. And
Mm.
where are these bullies stuck right now?
Right.
And they are looking for that outlet. So I really urge teenagers to limit their screen time for the negatives that come from screen time, yes, but also for putting themselves out there to consistently read these comments or see these messages that people send to you because they're unhappy with their own life, so they want to make you just as unhappy. And I will say in particular, right before your bed, because you can have a lovely day, and if the last thing that you read before you go and sleep is something negative about a picture that you post, you're not going to have a very nice sleep.
Right.
So I think making it a responsibility to positively reinforce yourself is going to help you out if you are experiencing cyberbullying. And knowing when you need to tell an adult, a parent, a guardian, an older sibling, an older cousin, because it can escalate very fast. And if at any point you begin to really, really become fearful, or you really just you are emotionally torn down, you need to reach out to a parent or a guardian. I would say, whether you're exposed to cyberbullying or not, you are at risk for it if you have a social media platform. So I would say some tips to avoid it or minimize your risk, I will say. Be aware of what you share and how much you share. Personal information. Make sure that you're not taking pictures that people could see exactly where you live, or
So
pictures
purposes.
identifying factors. And even patterns. So if you know that every morning, this podcast is specific to this COVID pandemic, but it is information that's applicable outside of it as well. So if you know every Monday you go and walk up Chancellor, and you post that you woke up Chancellor every Monday morning, someone that wants to get to you, Alicia, where would they find you on a Monday morning?
Chancellor Hill.
Exactly. So I'm not saying that you don't have to post, but even delaying your post. You take pictures one day and you can post it up 3 days after. No, it is not true that if you don't post it, it doesn't happen. No, teenagers, stop believing that lie.
Yes.
It's a lie. Right? So obviously private accounts as well. Our teens are encouraged to open their profiles because they get more followers that way. But no, it puts you at risk for way more. So even on these platforms, I know for Instagram in particular, because it actually saved me from a very horrible comment once, there's a setting in the privacy setting where they have an AI that you can take the option to make it, to turn it on for your profile, where from the time it senses a negative comment, it will automatically delete it. So it never shows
wow.
on your profile.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So there was a time when I decided to open my account, but obviously for business purposes, because I made it into a business account. And lo and behold, it didn't take much long after for somebody to find my profile, make a fake account, and send some very not so nice messages on one of my pictures. And I got the notification, but when I went onto it, I couldn't find it, and I didn't understand why. But when I opened my account, I went into privacy settings and I saw that, and I ticked it a while ago. So then I realized, wait a second, so that is what I ticked. So basically it senses any hateful comments and it would remove it. But also there's the option for you to type specific words that if a comment shows up with that word in it, it's going to delete it as well.
Well, that's good for our teenagers to hear this, so that they can also be aware, for those who have Instagram accounts and so forth.
Yes, definitely. So also it is your account, so you feel free to delete and block whoever you want to delete and block. You don't need to explain that to anybody. And it's also a time for you to see your real friends as well. So a good friend is not going to be someone that jumps on the bandwagon of making fun of you. That's just not a real friend. But also when you're in these positions I don't encourage you to stoop to their level and, oh, well, they told me something, I'm going to make them feel even worse. You have to remain grounded in who you are and what you want to do, because you have to answer for yourself and yourself alone. So, remaining peaceful and sympathetic, because as I said before, bullies and bullying is just a symptom of a very unhappy person. So, protecting yourself, but remaining peaceful as well. And again, being aware of the impact of your post and always being a beacon of light, especially during this time. Make sure
spread positivity.
Yes, for sure. Make sure at this point in time that whatever you post is making people feel better instead of worse. Please, 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 because we need more positivity right now.
Yeah. So, thank you very much. Brittany, is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything else that you think could these adolescents may, benefit, or anyone, as a matter of fact, who would be listening on to this podcast?
I would like to just really urge people to make it a point every day to pour into yourself. And yourself is made up of many different parts. So doing something for your mind, be it reading a book, doing a crossword, having a stimulating conversation, doing something for your body. So drinking water, eating something healthy, taking a walk, doing an exercise. And obviously we all have souls. So having that peace and quiet, tending to yourself, self-care. If you are someone that prays, say a prayer, give thanks, because in the midst of everything, it's very easy to lose sight of things that we are grateful for. So, we cannot pour from an empty cup. So making it a point every day to pour into ourselves. And so that is a main point that I would say.
Thank you very much, Brittany. And I know that a lot of people who be listening, they would really benefit from this information, as well as our next podcast, our upcoming podcast after you would be, physical specialist, and he would exercise specialist, and he is going to bring a lot of things on how, physical activity and eating healthy is so important during this time. So again, we know that you have, for those students, those adolescents who may not be able to actually do these practical steps, how can they get in contact? I know that you have some online sessions, be it individual or group sessions. What are some of these things that you'd be assisting them in these sessions, and how can they reach out to you?
So I do offer private as well as group meetings. Typically they are done in person, but given our circumstances, I'm offering them via Zoom. And these are targeted towards young people as well as the influential stakeholders in young people's lives, that being parents as well as educators. So these meetings are always tailored to whatever the needs of the clients are. So young people, parents, or teachers. But I touch on things such as mental health, coping with stress, the very vast and dynamic changes that come with adolescence, as well as helping parents parent an adolescent. It's very difficult. Dealing with modern pressures, so drugs and alcohol, social media, cyberbullying, as mentioned before, helping teens transition throughout life events, building skills, be it getting to know their identity and their personality, or interpersonal, intrapersonal skills, building healthy friendships, and for teachers, helping them fulfill their vocation of teaching, and more so during a time like this. So that's just stuff off the top of my head, but I would say that within my practice, I focus on everything outside of the academic realm. But all these things are very pertinent to an optimally functioning human, teenager, or future adult. So I really want to make holistic, fully functioning humans that don't only have maths and English, but also have these life skills and confidence and empowerment and knowledge to become the best version of themselves and deal with whatever life throws at them.
Yeah. Definitely. And we know that even for educators, it's very important for them to really incorporate this as well within their teaching methods. So it would benefit a lot of educators who are listening on this and parents, because the podcast before with our occupational therapist talked about high parent involvement during this time. So it's very important for parents and educators to really understand the adolescents,
Yes,
So
definitely.
yeah,
So,
again, we really anything else you want to say?
so I would say that again, if it is you do want to reach out to me,
Oh
parents and
yes, ways to
or teachers, feel free to email me. My email is Brittany Oriel Limited, so I will spell that out.
yes.
BrittanyOrielLTD at protonmail, protonmail.com. And if it is that you just feel very stressed out or may not know if you may need a private session, or maybe you just need someone to talk to very briefly, feel free to reach out to me on any media platforms. I operate mainly on Instagram. So I have my business profile, which is the Safe Zone Project with underscores in between, or my profile, Brittany Oriel. And I just want to leave you all with the note of that, everything does come to an end, and if you don't believe me, you can think back to a very stressful or painful time that you went through, and you thought that it would never come to an end or will never become better, and somehow it did. So,
Yeah.
this is an unfortunate time in our world, but we can find a way to make the best of the situation, and it will pass. So you can either come out of it a better person, the same person, or a worse person. So just really focus on that and take it one day at a time, one choice at a time, and we will get through it. Do not give up, and just find that strength and keep improving on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So again, and then we have the Safe Zone project, which is, we're really excited to even know if you're planning sometime this year to have an online, groups, with the Safe Zone project. Who knows, what's there in the future for Safe Zone, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you again, and we're looking forward to seeing and hearing testimonials of these tips.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Brittany,
Thank you very
and
much for having me.
not a problem.